All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Trevor Fritvinson. I'm Chief Operating Officer at Bison Transport. And on behalf of all my colleagues here in Alberta and across Canada, the United States, and Mexico, I'd like to welcome all of our guests, including our Deputy Prime Minister, Chrystia Freeland, here to our Calgary terminal. We are particularly pleased to host this event today as a reinforcement of our beliefs of the importance of constructive and respectful dialogue and engagements in our society. Concerning trends over a lack of civility from and to those in public life needs to be kept in check. And the best way to do that is to persist in the face of that kind of activity that only comes from a misguided minority. We may not always agree on the path forward, but we absolutely can conduct ourselves with civility and respect. Now, Bison has grown from a small regional carrier with 100 people in the early 90s to being a North American transportation solutions provider with 4,200 people and over $1 billion in revenue. On road and rail, we deliver the goods that people rely on for our expected quality of life. We've accomplished this through a commitment to safety and a deep respect for our professional drivers, technicians, and office staff alike. Through this journey, we have taken an active role in shaping our industry. Being highly regulated, we consult directly when available and appropriate with our governments. We are also active in our industry associations as a means to advance the interests of our industry and our people. And so with that, I'd like to turn it over to Stephen Laskowski, the head of the Canadian Trucking Alliance, to say a few words.
I need it too. We had a vote.
Okay.
Thank you all. And first of all, I'd like to introduce myself. I am Stephen Laskowski, President of the Canadian Trucking Alliance. Thank you all for joining us today. In particular, I'd like to thank Bison Transport, a proud member of the Canadian Trucking Alliance, for hosting today. And obviously, the Deputy Prime Minister of Canada for coming here today out of her extremely busy schedule to listen to our industry and continue to work with our industry. I'm proud as a member of the trucking industry of our industry's performance over the last 2 years, and particularly our hardworking men and women behind the wheel. They kept Canada going and continue to do that. But I would be remiss if I didn't also thank the Government of Canada that worked diligently with the trucking industry over the last 2 years, and a symbol of today of coming here again to continue to listen, to continue to work with us, to make us a strong industry and to make this economy stronger and safer. We will do that together, have been doing that together, and today, as you see here, we are continuing with that commitment, and the Government of Canada is continuing with that commitment. We appreciate the opportunity today to speak with the Deputy Prime Minister about the challenges facing our industry and the supply chain. Thank you very much, Deputy Prime Minister, for the time today, for the thoughts, and we will continue to work together to make our industry stronger and Canada stronger. So with that, I will now turn it over to the Deputy Prime Minister of Canada, the Honourable Chrystia Freeland.
Thanks a lot, Steve. Well, thank you, Trevor. Thank you, Steve. Je tiens d'abord à souligner que nous nous réunissons sur les territoires traditionnels des peuples de la région du traité numéro 7, dans le sud de l'Alberta. La ville de Calgary abrite également la nation des Métis de la région 3 de l'Alberta. So I am so glad to be here today in Calgary and really glad to be here today at Bison. I actually have known Trevor for a while now. We first met in October 2018 when I visited Bison at Winnipeg. And I have to say, Team Calgary, you gave me a very warm welcome, maybe even a little bit nicer than the Winnipeggers. You were nicer to me on the truck training stimulator. You didn't make the weather as bad. So thanks a lot. But that visit of mine to bison in Winnipeg in 2018 is one that was very important to me and I remember very clearly. I went there because we were in the midst of the NAFTA negotiations. And throughout those negotiations, it was really important for us to have a Team Canada approach and for me to be talking to Canadian businesses, especially the Canadian businesses for whom cross-border trade was really important. And so it made a lot of sense to go to bison. And what I remember the most from that visit was the people at bison talking to me about how their drivers were just as diverse as Canada is, and how their drivers were facing real challenges at the Canada-US border of a kind they hadn't faced in the past. And it was important for me to know about that. I raised it directly with US officials, and it also said something to me really meaningful about this company and about the care you have for each other and for the safety of everybody here. So that's a reason I was really glad to come back today. And thanks for that. The work being done here, whether it is by the operations team, the mechanics, or the truckers, and it was also great to meet a woman trucker today, Anya, hi, is the work that keeps our economy moving, that keeps our shelves stocked. You know, I think during COVID, we had an important lesson in this country as to the work that is truly essential. And the work that is truly essential is healthcare workers. It's people who work in grocery stores, and it is absolutely truckers. So I'm glad to recognize that today and to say to all of you, thank you very much. Les entreprises comme celle-ci stimulent notre économie. Et je pense que les Canadiennes et les Canadiens ont appris à les apprécier encore plus au cours des 2 dernières années. En effet, ces 2 dernières années, la pandémie et l'invasion illégale de l'Ukraine par la Russie nous ont montré à quel point il est important d'avoir des chaînes d'approvisionnement stables et prévisibles. Now, Canada's economy has made a remarkable recovery from the COVID recession, thanks to the hard work of people like the ones who are here today. Our real GDP is 2.3% higher than it was when COVID first hit. Our unemployment rate at 4.9% is the lowest it has been since 1976, when we first started tracking comparable data. Even as we deal with the very real challenges that the global economy is facing right now, elevated inflation, interest rates that are going up, it's important for us to all take real comfort from the reality, which is Canada has a very strong economic foundation as we face these global challenges. Over the past week, I've been meeting with workers, business leaders, and mayors across Western Canada. The next few years are a tremendous opportunity for us to continue investing in this incredible part of our country and to help create even more good-paying jobs for people in Western Canada, for people here in Alberta. We know that maintaining strong, reliable supply chains is essential to our ability to do that. Continuing to invest in our national trade corridors is essential in our ability to do that. Businesses need to know that they can count on getting the goods they need when they need them. And it was great to meet some of the dispatchers and customer service people here who are in charge of precisely that. And businesses need to know that they can reliably ship their products across the country, across North America, and around the world. And that is why, for our government, for me, being in close contact with the trucking industry is so important, especially now as the global economy is recovering from the COVID recession, from lockdowns, from supply chain snarls. We fought very hard to protect NAFTA and Canada's trading relationship with the United States, and that is a relationship that absolutely depends on you guys. It depends on truckers moving goods across the border at all hours of the day and no matter what the weather. We really believe in helping great Canadian businesses like this one continue to hire and grow by making it easier for you to attract skilled workers from across the country and around the world. By working together, the federal government, the provincial government, municipalities, workers, and businesses across Alberta, we can make sure that Alberta's economy continues to grow and continues to create even more good middle-class jobs. I am really proud to have been born and raised in Alberta. And I want the great people I have met here and across the province to know that our government will continue to be a partner for Alberta and the remarkable workers and businesses in this province. Thank you very much. Happy to answer your questions.
Alrighty, so one question, one follow-up.
And if you could please introduce yourselves.
Tyson Fedora, CTV News here in Calgary. Ms. Freeland, I guess many people are talking about this viral video in Grand Prairie. You didn't receive the warmest of welcomes here in this province. Were you surprised by that interaction, given the distaste that so many Albertans do have for your government? And personally, how are you feeling since that incident?
Well, actually, I did receive, and I have been receiving, a very warm welcome here in Alberta. I am really proud of my Alberta roots, and I'm really, really glad to be here today. I have now been in Alberta for a week. I have been in Edmonton, Grand Prairie, Peace River, Olds yesterday, Calgary today. I have been meeting with truckers, farmers, mechanics, skilled tradespeople, engineers, business leaders. And I have had some great conversations with the kind, decent, and welcoming people who are Alberta. So I really want to thank everyone for those conversations and for the past week that I've spent here. Yes, there was an unpleasant incident, and I think it's important for all of us to be really clear that that was wrong. But one unpleasant incident does not in any way overshadow the warmth of the welcome that I have received and am receiving right now from the kind, decent, and generous people of Alberta.
Just a quick follow-up. A new Leger poll just came out, I believe, yesterday, and it mentioned people who don't want to come to Alberta, it's due to the people here. But we saw that incident. You mentioned there are some good people in here. So what's your response to that poll saying that people don't want to visit Alberta because of the people that you witnessed in Grand Prairie?
Look, I am really proud to be born and raised in Alberta, and I am grateful to Alberta for raising me. This is a province I absolutely love, and I think it is so important for us to say to people across Canada and around the world that Alberta is such a welcoming place. It is a warm, kind, diverse province full of people who believe in their communities, who support their neighbors. That is the Alberta I grew up in. That is the Alberta of my family and my friends. That is the Alberta that I have been visiting for the past week.
Paula Duhacek, CBC Calgary. Regarding the incident in Grand Prairie, do you think that charging people like Elliot McDavid is necessary to send a message about the kinds of attacks you and others are experiencing? And have you spoken to RCMP about the encounter?
You know, I think that it is really important to have confidence in the RCMP, in police authorities, and in the criminal justice system. I always follow their advice, and I am grateful for their hard work.
Separately, your government's luxury tax comes into effect tomorrow and is estimated to cost the boat industry $500 million a year in sales. How do you respond to concerns from boat manufacturers and sellers that it will force them to lay off people and bring in very little actual revenue for the government?
You know, we've been talking a lot today about COVID, about the COVID recession, about how hard those 2 years were, about the extraordinary measures we had to take to keep Canadians healthy and safe and to keep the economy going through that difficult time. It cost a lot of money, and I think that was money well spent. We saved lives, and we kept businesses and families going. And I think it is entirely reasonable to say to someone who has $100,000 to spend on a car or a plane, or $250,000 to spend on a boat, you need to pay a 10% tax to help everybody else. I think it is great for Canadians to be successful. It is great for Canadians to be prosperous. I also think that people who are doing really, really well should feel comfortable supporting everybody else. And I bet if you ask the truckers and mechanics who are here, do they think it's fair for someone who is spending $250,000 on a boat to pay a 10% luxury tax so that we can afford the things we need as a country? I bet they'd say, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
William Hamelin, Radio-Canada.
Bonjour.
Bonjour, je vais vous poser quelques questions en français, peut-être qu'on les a déjà posées, mais en fait, je voudrais savoir comment vous vous sentez depuis l'incident à votre égard qui a eu lieu vendredi dernier à Grande Prairie.
Pour moi, la chose la plus importante, c'est l'accueil généreux et chaleureux que j'ai reçu autour de l'Alberta, la province dans laquelle je suis née et dans laquelle j'ai grandi. C'est une province des gens généreux, c'est une province des gens amicables. Et j'étais, dans la semaine passée, j'ai commencé mon voyage à Edmonton. Après ça, je suis allée à Grand Prairie. Après ça, ma ville natale, Peace River. Et maintenant, je suis ici. Et vraiment, j'ai eu des conversations fantastiques avec les travailleurs autour de province. Je veux vraiment remercier tous les Albertains généreux qui m'ont accueilli ici. Oui, c'était un moment désagréable pour moi. Et ce n'était pas juste ce qui s'est passé. On doit être clair concernant ça. La réalité de l'Alberta, la réalité de la semaine que j'ai passée ici, était que c'est une province pleine de gens qui m'ont accueilli chaleureusement. Et je veux vraiment remercier tous les Albertains pour cet accueil.
Et juste une dernière petite question. Est-ce que l'incident change quoi que ce soit dans la manière ou la façon que vous allez faire pour quand vous allez revenir en Alberta un autre jour?
Non.
Vous avez rien changé rien du tout?
Je suis toujours les recommandations de la GRC. Ils sont des professionnels et je suis leurs recommandations. Mais pour moi, l'Alberta ce sera toujours chez moi. Ma famille est ici, mes amis sont ici, et j'ai beaucoup de respect et de l'amour pour cette province et des gens de cette province. Je suis très contente d'être ici et c'était une semaine fantastique que j'ai passée ici.
Adam McVicker with Global News. You met with Mayor Jyoti Gondek yesterday, speaking about a few different issues regarding our city, including community safety. I guess, how can the federal government help with some of these issues the city is facing? And, what did the mayor ask of the federal government?
It was a very good meeting with Mayor Gondek. I've met with her now several times. We're in direct contact with each other. She is an important partner for me and for our federal government. On this trip, I've also met with the mayors of Edmonton, Grand Prairie, and Saskatoon. You're right, Mayor Gondek did, we talked about a number of things. We spoke about the local economy. We spoke about housing. We spoke about community safety, and those are all areas where we're going to continue to work together.
And what kind of commitments could the federal government make, given the information that's been provided to you by the mayor firsthand?
You know what? The important thing is to roll up our sleeves and continue to work together. We talked about, in some detail about a number of issues. I've listed them just now, and we're going to keep on working with Calgary on those issues.
Hi, Bill Graveland from the Canadian Press. I realize that this is probably the last subject you want to keep being asked about since you're here talking supply chain. But do you believe that your situation, what happened in Grand Prairie, is going to sort of shine the spotlight on female politicians being harassed? I know a lot have spoken in your defense.
Look, what happened was wrong, and we need to be clear about that. And from my perspective, I think we need to be especially clear that people who are members of a visible minority and women are perhaps particularly vulnerable. I am conscious that there are a lot of journalists and politicians across the country who have a lot less support than I do, who can face challenging situations. And it is important for all of us to support them.
Will you be increasing security?
I always follow the advice of the RCMP. I'm very, very grateful to them for their support. They are real professionals, and I'll continue to follow their advice.
All right, that concludes today's press conference. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone.